Good morning everyone and have a pleasantful day. This is Pavitra. Today going to explain two topics that are flow control mechanism in networking and IEEE 802.5. So let's start in. First, we are going to see flow control mechanism in networking. Flow control is a technique that generally observes the proper flow of data from sender to receiver. It is very essential because it's possible for sender to transmit data or information at very fast rate, and hence receiver can receive the information and process it. This can happen only if the receiver has a very high load to traffic as compared to sender, or if a receiver has a power of processing less compared to sender, the compared to sender. Flow control is basically a technique that gives permission to of a station that are working and processing at a different speed to just communicate with one another. To flow control in data link layer simply restricts and coordinate number of frame or amount of data sender can send just before it. Wait for an acknowledgement from receiver. Flow control is actually a set of a procedure that explains about how much data or a frame is being collected. Receiving device also contain only limited amount of speed and the memory to store data. It is also needs the buffer, large block of memory for just storing data or frames until they processed. So basically there are two approaches of the flow controls. The two approaches of the flow controls are feedback based flow control and rate based flow control. Let's see what are they. Feedback based flow control is in this control technique, sender simply transmit data or information or frame to receiver. Then receiver transmits data back to sender to transmit more amount of data or tell sender how the receiver is performing or doing. This simply means that sender transmits data or a frame after it has received the acknowledgement from the user. So basically acknowledgement from the user. Rate based flow control is sender sends data at faster speed to receive, and the receiver is being able to receive data at high speed. The mechanism known as built-in mechanism in protocol will just limit or restrict overall rate at which data or information is being transferred or transmitted by the sender without any feedback or acknowledgement from the receiver. So basically the main difference in between the based flow control are feedback is receiving an acknowledgement and the rate based flow control does not receive any kind of feedback or acknowledgement. Now let's see the techniques of flow control. Basically, there are two techniques of a flow control in data link layer, that is DLL, that is stop and wait flow control and sliding window flow control. Let's see what are they. Stop and wait flow control are, it is the easiest and the simplest form of a flow control. In this method, basically message or the data is broken into small frames or multiple frames, and then receiver indicates its readiness to receive from frame of data. When acknowledgement is received, then only sender will send or transfer the next frame. This is the process continued until the transmission, that is end of transmission. Now the next flow control is sliding window. In this method, sender transmits or sends the various frame or the packets before receiving any acknowledgement. Both the sender and the receiver agree upon the total number of a data frame after which the acknowledgement is needed to be transmitted. In this method, sender send multiple frame, but the receiver take one by one after completing one frame acknowledged, which is next frame number only for few frame. Now let's see the advantages and the disadvantages. The advantages of the stop and wait flow control is, this method is very easy and simple, and each of the frames is checked and acknowledged well, and this method is also very accurate. Disadvantage of this method is it's rarely slow and only one packet or the frame can be sent at a time. It is very inefficient and makes the transmission procedure very slow. Now the advantages and the disadvantages of the sliding window flow controls are: this method is increases efficiency and multiple frames can be sent at a time. And the main disadvantage, the main issue is complexity at the center and the receiver due to the transferring of the multiples of the frames. Now let's see what is IEEE 802.5. That's another name also known as Token Ring Standard. The IEEE abbreviation is Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. 802.5 is also known as a token ring. A token ring network connects all the devices in a computer in a circular or a closed manner. The word token describes the segment of the data that sends through the network. The data travels around the network only in one direction. The sending and the receiving of the data takes place by the help of a token, like a priority voiced. Token contains a piece of information which along with the data is sent by the source computer. This token then passes to next node, which check if the signal is intended to read. If yes, it receives it and passes the empty into the network. Otherwise, passes token along with the data to next node. This process continued until the data reaches its desired destination. Each node sends its data when it receives an empty token. Now see let's the advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of the token ring is all the traffic flow gets into one direction at a very high speed. Another advantage is no need for network to control the connectivity between the workstation. Each computer has an equal source of access. Now the main disadvantages are data sharing accomplished through one direction only. It takes more time to send or receive data. Difficult to add and remove devices once the network has set up. So basically it's very difficult to remove or add the devices once the network is set up. Each packet of data must pass through all the computers between sources and destination. If one computer or the port goes down, the entire network gets affected or damaged, or the entire network has to be changed. That's for this PPT. Thank you.